What's up, team? I'm Jennifer Solomon.
My name is Anthony Lowe, and this is Team Chat, streaming on WNYU.org and on 89.1 FM. Before we start, I just want to thank you guys for listening to us. We do really do enjoy talking about esports, and we really appreciate everyone giving us a chance and giving us a listen. And thank you guys for tuning in. But before we start, Jenny and we actually did a really fun event this weekend. We played League of Legends 2v2s on ARAM, and also we played 5v5s on Valorant, which is a custom match. And I would like to say that I think we did pretty well, especially on League. We went 2-1. What are your thoughts about that,
Yeah,
Jenny?
no, we played, so 2v2 being like, it was me and Anthony playing together on a team going against two of our fans and listeners. And yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was interesting because, very different gameplay. The Valorant game, it was actually the opposite. So me and Anthony drafted teams and we went against each other. But I have no comment on that.
Yeah.
But maybe Anthony could talk about
Yeah,
it
I,
since.
I, I I would love to say to our listeners that I actually went 3-0. I didn't lose a
Okay.
single game. It looks like my drafting skills and my skills on the server were just a lot better that day. Um,
Yeah, but he doesn't
yeah.
mention the fact how we played a 1v1 to like see who gets first pick, and I won the 1v1. So I think that's what matters.
Yeah, but I still got to win that game, so it's good. I'll still take the win. I don't mind losing 1v1s. All
Yeah, but you
right.
suck.
Well,
Oh,
let's
okay.
All right. Well, all right.
Okay.
Let's focus on a different topic. In bigger esports news, we Masters Bangkok for VCT for Valorant just concluded, and um, T1, a Korean team, a Pacific team, eventually defeated G2 Esports North American team 3-2 in the grand finals. Crazy games, crazy overtime plays. It was a thriller to watch. I managed to catch the last map when I woke up this morning, and it is quite a sight to see T1 finally winning their very first international tournament in Valorant, considering how famous the team is in League of Legends.
Yeah, and T1's your favorite team, right? Like you're the
Well,
biggest
one of my
fan.
favorite teams.
Oh, one of your favorite
One
teams.
of one of my
Yes.
favorite teams, yeah.
Yes, yes. I have
But Jenny,
no preference to them. But yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually visited their office, so actually, yes, they are also one of my favorite teams.
did you manage to catch the game or just watch the highlights at all?
Yeah, so I usually wake up kind of early, but then I go back to sleep. So I did see it on YouTube, and I caught it when the game was 1-1, and it was the third game because they played to five. And I thought it was like pretty much over. I thought the game looked over, but then when I woke up and like checked again, I was like, wow, the third game, like the score was different than what I had thought it was going to be. Um, yeah, then went back to sleep, and then I woke back up to see the end of the game. So really fun, really interesting. There was also the show match to showcase the brand new agent, which is agents are playable characters in Valorant, and this character is from Thailand. So it was like a really nice having a show match, and I think Thai people probably really appreciate like the representation within the game. But the show match is really interesting because it shows how the new character can be played in the game, but it's also great for fans because it has like ex pro players, current pro players, and content creators all play against each other. So it's just nice to have a little fun start. But unfortunately, because I was so early in the day, I think it probably happened around 4 a.m. or 5 a.m.
Yeah.
EST. I didn't get to watch it, but new character looks great. Definitely changes how the game looks and will be played. And excited for it. So yeah.
Yeah. I'll just put in my few thoughts about that game. I'm really happy for T1. Their history in Valorant hasn't been always the best, so to see them finally lifting a trophy is really special. And I think the way that they did it was really cool. They managed to defeat every single number one seed from every region
Mm-hmm.
to lift that title, which is a crazy accomplishment, especially how people rated them as the weakest, one of the weaker teams heading into the tournament, which is crazy to think that. People put them in, as the seventh strongest team, as the weakest team in the tournament, and just to see them, you know, against all odds, just win that tournament is just a crazy sight to see. Uh, and yeah, I'm very excited to see what they can do in the future now that they're the best team in the world right now, best team in Korea as well. So very excited. Very excited for the future of T1 here.
Mm-hmm. So kind of like what you said about like T1 and some of the struggles and stuff that they've gone through is, kind of one of the downsides of like really parasocial fans and like obsessed fans, which is how their headquarters got DDoSed, right? And it makes them unable to practice. So we kind of bring this up because there was a tweet this past weekend by ex-pro players Zeke that got like way over 4.2 million views on X, and the the post says K-popification of VCT is by far, in all caps, the worst thing that could have happened to my beloved game Valorant. And as a K-pop fan, I swear that I agree. No, I don't agree with the post, but I agree that K-popification is happening. And I would tell my friends, I'd be like, guys, look at this insane edit of John QT. It's just like if I saw an edit of my bias in my favorite K-pop group, which is Twice. But it was just crazy. I've been calling that it's been happening, and I think a lot of people know it's been happening. But I feel like that tweet was the first time somebody properly said it, and they kind of said it in a negative way. And it kind of causes the question, is it good or is it bad? And I just one thing before we start to talk about it, and I asked Anthony his opinion. The global head of Valorant Esports, Leo Faria, actually just replied to the post no. And no being no, K-popification is not the worst thing to happen to Valorant Esports. And a lot of other organizations, gaming orgs, agreed. Like Navi, Fnatic are big Twice fans, by the way. And Sentinels also agreed. So is it good? Is it bad? Let's talk about it. What do you think, Anthony?
Personally, I think for the health of the game, the competitive scene, I think it's a great thing. You really the popularity of a game isn't, carried on by how many people play the game. I really think in terms of esports, I really think it is carried by fans' connections to teams and players, and the K-popification really does drive that. So I think it is a big benefit for the health of Valorant esports. And I think when it comes to the term K-popification, I think there's a negative connotation. People think it's a little bit cringy or is weird. It's a shooter game. Why is K-pop involved here? But I think I just think we have to kind of break past that negative connotation that people have with K-pop. I think people just need to grow up a little bit, honestly. Controversial take. It's not that weird. It's normal. You see in pro sports, maybe it's not people drawing pictures of players, but you see montages of LeBron James. I know it's a little bit ironic, but it's kind of the same thing. You're gonna get content from big fans, from mega fans supporting players and supporting teams, and that's a big plus for any sport or any esport or any team. So I definitely don't agree with Zeke. I respect his resume, a former world champion and stuff like that, but it's a new age.
New age.
It's just what we're gonna have to accept, and if you can't accept it, then don't be part of the scene, I guess. I don't know. That might be a little bit harsh, but I think it's great. But I think, Jenny, you did touch upon it about the whole parasocial thing. People do take it too far. I will say there needs to be a fine balance. There needs to be a respectable balance between fandom and obsessiveness. I don't think in Valorant we have experienced anything like obsessive fans. We haven't seen anything like that yet, but I would say people need to be careful about what they post and what they say about these players, because players are people too. So if you're writing inappropriate stuff or hateful stuff towards a player because they did something, they're people too, and you really have to respect the boundaries, and that's what we kind of see with what happened with T1 LoL, T1 League of Legends, where fans are DDoSing, or quote unquote fans are DDoSing their headquarters so their players can't practice, or fans sending in trucks saying that the ownership or players aren't performing well. Like these are things that should never happen in any sport. Criticism is valid, but there has to be a boundary towards it.
Yeah, too much.
Uh, but Jenny, what are your thoughts? You did talk a little bit about it, but I would love to hear a little bit more about what you think as a
Yeah.
K-pop fan yourself. So
Yeah, I think it has its good stuff, its bad stuff, but I think the good stuff way more outweighs the bad stuff. And I think K-popification is so harmless too. Like, I don't even really understand what necessarily prompted that tweet. I think it might have been like fan art that was kind of like a little weird, and like they're not used to it. But I think it is kind of what you're talking about. Like, oh, it's like a shooter game. It's like, oh, I suppose like it's supposed to be more quote unquote masculine, more, So why am I seeing my favorite player to the song, to the like an edit of my favorite player to the like a really cutesy girly K-pop song, right? Like, but there's nothing wrong with that, and all it does is just drive engagement and drive support on social media. And like, who doesn't want to have fangirls, fanboys, and other fans? Like, all it does is just help you. And it's like I said, it's so harmless. Like, by K-popification, it's just kind of saying like edits on social media, maybe even making like little photo cards, which are just like, imagine your favorite player on like the little piece of cardboard, and just like decorating that, and stickers, and Sentinels even have light sticks for people to bring. So all it does is just like bring people together. It brings the esports community together. So I don't understand why he would necessarily say that. But of course, he said it because there's negatives, and yes, parasocial fans. So I agree with everything you said, Anthony. Like, people do get really weird, yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say, the K-popification of esports, not only does it bring fans, but you also have to consider the fact that it brings in like revenue, merch sales. There are so many other factors that bring, that add to the esports realm, and these are a lot of benefits. And I think what Zeke said in his tweet, he's only thinking about how, K-pop is very girlish, or it doesn't belong in esports. It's a little bit cringe. Like, I get that perspective, but he's not really thinking, at least personally, I don't think he's thinking about like the bigger scale of things. Like, what does it do outside of the game? What does it do for orgs? What does it do for, player fan engagement, all that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that people just need to be aware that there's boundaries to things, and of course, K-popification can get very, very personal, a little too personal, and I think just people need to understand the boundaries and respect those boundaries, and I think it'll be a great thing for Valorant if all those lines and rules are set ahead of time. So
Yeah. I think like as a K-pop fan, I see like literally no problem with it, and I enjoy seeing two of my like favorite things just like combine. It's kind of crazy, but like one of my favorite teams, Fnatic, one of their players, Boaster, just like always comes out on during his walkouts, and he just starts dancing to Twice songs. And I really like that. Like, I'll repost those clips. It's one of my favorite things. It's just, it really makes the game better, and he gets to connect to other communities that, don't usually connect with esports maybe, and you just like there's nothing bad with that. Like, I always repost those, and I just really like those videos. So I love the K-popification of Valorant esports, basically.
Yeah, it's already happened in League, but I would say it happened more on the Asian team side in League of Legends, like the Korean teams and the Chinese teams. They sell merch, like they sell photo cards of their players, and it sells like hotcakes out there. So I'm
Hotcakes.
saying there is a huge market, and it does bring in a lot of money for orgs and attention to League of Legends and to Valorant. But I think it's since we're talking about K-popification, I also think it'll be a great segue to moving on to more of League of Legends, and move on to more of the Korean side. So,
Yeah.
just for some context for the listeners, T1, historic team, recently won the previous world championship last year. They are going through a little bit of a controversy right now where their AD carry situation, their ADC situation isn't going very well. They recently benched their two-time world champion winner Gumayusi for a rookie called Smash, and there's been a lot of controversy with the fans, especially diehard T1 fans who are threatening to boycott the team because of this decision. They don't believe it's the right thing to do. And Jenny, I would just, what are your thoughts about roster changes like that? Switching off a proven winner for a relative unknown.
I think roster changes are completely normal. I mean, it happens in almost every traditional sport and physical sport. And I think as if you're a fan of a team, you should just like be aware of that and like you should know it. But I know it's kind of because of that K-popification. Like people have a parasocial relationship with Gumayusi and they just are obsessed with him, and that's why they'll do insane things like sending death threats and like boycotting threats and all these things. So I think people should just know that it's normal. I think it's normal. I know it's crazy, but like teams need to practice. Like what's gonna happen when Gumayusi gets older and all these things, and like Smash needs time to develop. Like rookies need to develop, and clearly, if he's there, then he's able to participate and play. If he couldn't, then he wouldn't be there. So that's what I think. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, and to give more of like a statistical or analytical approach to it, when Smash played for T1, during that current League of Legends meta, they were playing a lot better, in contrast to when Gumayusi was playing on the team. So you really can't argue the fact like, oh, like Smash is playing bad. He's really not. He is kind of living up to the T1 name, as in performing, trying to perform his best. And I think it's really unfair to criticize the coaching staff or to criticize Smash himself. Like Smash is just, I think he's 18. I think he's 19. So he's just like a
Wow.
19-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're putting all the blame on him for something that he, it wasn't his choice to step into that role. I think we should respect the fact that he did step up to that role and perform reasonably well. And a little historical context. Gumayusi also technically did the same thing when he first went onto T1. He replaced an all-star AD carry, Teddy, who was by far the best Korean, one of the better Korean AD carries. He stepped up as a rookie, a relative unknown, and did really well and took his spot over. Like this is normal in esports, normal in traditional sports, but I think it's because T1 is one of the biggest teams in the world, one of the most popular teams in the world, and has the most fans. People form a little bit of an unhealthy relationship with some of these players, and I would say that a lot of the criticism from these fans are very unfair for the org, for the owners, players, and coaches as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a lot of sympathy towards or empathy towards younger players. Like people just hate them so much, and like at the end of the day they're just a kid, like they're out there living their dreams. Like imagine what he's thinking, like, oh, I'm playing for one of the best teams in the world. Like he must be excited, but then he has all these people that are like, you suck and all these things.
He's not even playing bad. He's not even playing bad. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And there's other. I remember one of the Valorant players on Team Heretics, Mini Boo. Like he is really young, and he actually had to take a break from one of the tournaments last year, like Masters, because he had to just do exams. And then I just like I remember just feeling bad for him, kind of not in like a bad way, but because Heretics went really far with their sub, and I can't like I just can't imagine like thinking like, oh, my team went really far without me. And there's then people start saying like, oh, is Patty Tech better than Miniboo? Like it was, and then like we had Wu as the duelist instead, right? So it's just like all those things make me so like, it's just like, oh, like I can't imagine myself in that position, and these kids are just like supposed to immediately like be okay with getting all this hate and everything. So, but
I,
yeah,
I would. It's just becoming a professional athlete. It's just you'll always go through haters and go through
yeah,
criticism, even if it's like even if you don't deserve it. And I just pray that for any young player, honestly, but for Smash especially, I would hope that T1 is supporting him well, and he has like a support staff that is there for him because it's very difficult. Not everyone can go through criticism like that and get out of it unscathed. Some people may
yeah.
take it very differently. So I'm wishing the best for him and his future. But focusing on the other side, like Gumayusi, I think there's got to be like a motivation now. I would say you got benched for a rookie and he's doing well,
Yeah.
so I would say for him, it's just extra motivation to be better, to perform better outside on the server. Sorry,
Mhm.
and just to do his best, do the best that he can. And I don't doubt Gumayusi at all because I watched when he signed his contract with T1 this year. He gave an interview. Sorry, no, not, he didn't give an interview, but the owner of T1, Joe Marsh, was talking to the media, and he said, Gumayusi is a person who bleeds red, like for
Mhm.
T1, and he signed a 1-year contract because he didn't want to feel comfortable with a multi-year contract because he wanted to prove himself as being the best AD carry in the world again. And this is just a bump in the road for him, and I hope he can get back to his world championship winning form again. And I don't think anyone is praying for him to do bad. I don't think anyone's praying for anyone to do bad, honestly.
Yeah.
But I think just because it's T1, biggest team, uh, multiple worlds winning, team, you just have extra drama because of that, and it's tough for both sides. So
Mhm.
yeah. Do you have any other thoughts, Jenny, about this before we move on?
No, I don't really have any other thoughts. I think you articulated it perfectly, and we both have our opinions, and it's just really interesting because, kind of as we mentioned in our last episodes, like we see esports developing all the time. Like we haven't. It hasn't been around for as long as other traditional sports. So, and social media is such a big aspect. So it's really fun to see it develop. But as we kind of come close to our time running out, I think it'd be really fun to talk about game changers because, like, as we talk about these really high tier international events, I think it's really important to take a step back and maybe look at the game changers scene. And for those of you who don't know, game changers specifically in Valorant, only because I actually don't know if there's that many other esports that do it, but Game Changers is a semi-professional league that consists of women and other underrepresented genders. So I actually really like this. Although I don't watch Game Changers too much, I 100% support it. I support the players on Twitch, on X, all the social media. I watched their grand finals, and it's really great. I think it's really good for female representation, and although there's like people that always talk trash and all that stupid stuff, but I just think it's really great for Valorant esports, and it allows like little girls and like teenagers who just want to get into games, or they see like girls playing games, and it's just like a reminder that like they can do it. So But how about we go a little bit more into, like the logistics of Game Changers and maybe how it works and how it's been working. Right, Anthony?
Yeah, before I actually get into that, I do want to say, Game Changers is such a unique thing in esports as a whole because when people talk about esports, people think it's a male-centric sport. And for the past few decades or decade, I would argue the same. It is very male-centric, but uh we should be really proud, or Valorant and Riot Games should be really proud now that there is female representation not only in game, female and other
Genders.
genders out there, but there is actually representation in the VCT, like female representation, because Fluorescent, who used to play for Shopify, their female team, their Game Changers team, she signed to Apex Gaming, Apex, I think,
Yeah.
in
Apex.
EMEA, and she's a starting player on a VCT roster. So she's playing in the highest tier of competitive Valorant, and I think the fact that she managed to do that, she was successful in Game Changers, and now she managed to break the barrier, break the glass ceiling, I guess, and
Mm-hmm.
get into VCT, and actually play pretty well there is something everyone should be really proud of. And it does, like Jenny said, it shows, little girls and teenagers and people who aren't men that, this path is possible. And, just because you're not a guy doesn't mean that you can't make it to VCT because someone has done it and it's possible. And I hope personally that, it breaks more and more people. It's not just going to become a male centric sport. Like everyone, if you're good enough, you can make it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what we should always aim for. But yeah, segueing to logistics, honestly, um, logistics wise, it's a year-long tournament, if I remember correctly. It's a year-long tournament, and there's multiple different divisions where, like different divisions split into regions where you just play like a bracket style tournament, against other Game Changers teams. And if you basically try to accumulate points very similar to what VCT is doing now, and the more points you accumulate, you'll represent your region as a whole into the Game Changers Championship, which is their world finals. It's very similar to VCT.
Yeah, I
I
think it's
wouldn't.
like the
I,
same,
I
low
would
key.
say I think it
Almost the
is the
same.
same, but I would
Yeah.
argue they play more games. I think they do play
Oh,
more games
really?
than VCT teams
Mm-hmm.
because it's like open qualifiers and closed qualifiers and all that stuff. So you get a lot more reps as a Game Changers player. But yeah, it's very similar format, and they're it's just great. I don't really know what other word to describe Game
Yeah,
Changers. I
yeah, yeah.
love what Riot have done. And I really, really wish that Riot can expand into League of Legends, make a
Mm-hmm.
Game Changers scene for League of Legends because, they've had a chance to do that before, but they've never really dug their heels into that. And not only for Riot Games esports, but for any others. I know Counter-Strike, they have a very small, female scene out there, but it's not as popular. Like I would say Valorant is
Valorant's
the
most popular,
biggest
yes. I
out
think
there.
Valorant, just in
Yeah.
general, like player base, I think Valorant is the most played computer game by girls and other genders. Like, I am part of NYU Sports, so I talk to a lot of people and a lot of girls, and I feel like there's so like my team is more girls and other genders than guys. So and I'm a co-ed team, so it's really interesting. And I just like a short little tidbit is like Shopify Rebellion, one of the Game Changers teams, actually qualified for NA Challengers, right? And even though
Hmm.
they lost, it's still showing. I think the most important thing is just showing that they can, because once you know that you can and you're doing it, you can only like go up. And just like showing people that you're doing it and that it's happening, I think it's just great overall. So, yeah, and
I also think,
yeah.
yeah, sorry, real
No, no,
quick. I
no.
also think it's great because I know NYU. before I graduated, they started their own Game Changers team. So and I
Yeah.
know other colleges in the US or who are is playing Valorant competitively in colleges, they're also considering starting their own Game Changers teams, which is great. And the more players, the better.
Yeah.
I guess that's the message.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. And I think it's just great that we get to see esports evolve like in real time, and it's just great. I honestly think esports can only get better from here. I'm sure there might be like little small things that slow it down and some quote unquote controversial things like K-popification, but don't worry because we'll be here to cover it all. And yeah, this is Team Chat. So thank you guys for listening, and we hope to see you next week. Hope you enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you guys so much. See you.
Bye.
No.
Yo, what's up, guys? What's up, guys? I need everybody to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, we're rushing A. We're rushing A. Go away, go away.